Now I want to read something because this one is near and dear to me. Difficult at times, but still near and dear. It says, a husband, love your wife. It's plural in the Bible if you haven't noticed that, but I want to change that for my sake here. Love your wife as Messiah loved the church and gave himself for her, that he might sanctify and cleanse her with the washing of water by the word, that he might present her to himself as a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that she would be holy and without a blemish. Husbands ought to love their own wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. For no one ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes it and cherishes it, just as the Lord does the church. For we are members of his body, of his flesh, and of his bones. For this reason a man shall leave his father and mother and join to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. This is a great mystery, but I speak concerning Messiah and the church. Nevertheless, let each one of you in particular so love his own wife as himself, and let the wife see his respect as her husband. There are times where wives and husbands butt heads. I always look at it as Adam and Eve. God did not create Adam and then turn around and create the exact same being in Eve. He created a completed being in Eve. A completed being that the two together should be known as one. That's important. Because there is more strife and more war and more turmoil in the households in this country than there are on wars on this planet. There is more strife between husband and wife who have made a covenant with God to be together forever than there are between presidents and prime ministers and kings and whoever else. There's more strife between husbands and wives than there are between other nations throughout the world. We need to be sympathetic to our wives as husbands. We need to be sympathetic and understand sometimes what she's going through. Sometimes she may come in, and this is a true story, and I may get stoned for this.
Only if we tell.
But there are times where I come in after a 10-hour day, I walk in the door, and the first thing I want is my chair. That's all I want. The only thing in the world that I see in my future is that chair. And there are times that my wife says, honey, can you get me this? Get up out of my chair, go get it, grumbling and kicking things the entire time. Give it to her, sit down, and it's like there's a radar in the motion of me sitting. Because as soon as I go like this, oh, by the way! Could you have told me while I was in the kitchen that you needed something from the kitchen? And it's easy to turn that over into a huge deal. I do, a lot of times. I know!
I get your own This could get out.
But it's important for her to know that I'm going to be there for her, even in the littlest things. Will you get me a tea? See, getting tea from my wife is not the same as getting tea from a pitcher. It means I've got to go put tea bags in a pot and boil the pot and make tea. This is no little task.
No.
But I do, most times. Other times I ignore her. I can't hear you. But there were wars started over less. So we have to be able to love our spouses in a way that she wants to be loved. Jesus said to love your wife as you love your own flesh. As you nourish and cherish your own flesh. You're supposed to respect your wife as that. The two have become one. That's big, that's huge. And I think so many places and so many families in this country, maybe not in this room, but so many families throughout this country are two different beings with two separate standards and two different goals. Maybe even two different faiths. I think we need to, as husbands, embrace our wives. And I've seen different things, and I'm going to embarrass Charles. But 2 years ago, Jasmine and Micah had a birthday party at a really boring pizza place. I mean, this place is absolutely boring. The majority of the games didn't work. The pizza was terrible. It was just not a great birthday party. And I'm kind of following Jasmine around, making sure Jasmine's not getting into things she has no business getting into. And I go upstairs and I see Charles and Rose dancing. They're up on top of a balcony by themselves dancing to the music that was playing. And that spoke to me. My wife looked at that, she goes, "Isn't that beautiful?" I was like, "Yeah, but don't expect me to dance."
You did
I did at the wedding.
Well, my wife did.
Yeah, his wife did. But that's the type of thing. Charles may not have wanted to dance at that point.
He didn't.
It took away all the beauty part of it.
But he did.
But there's a